What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of D3 Yappers. We might be D3 runners, but we're D1 Yappers. That hard. Didn't mess it up. That's actually so clean. Okay, we're back. I'm here with my fabulous co-host,
Noah Tobin, and I'm here with Faith Duncan.
Yes, and we are here to give you some fun updates on our training in life, as well as some fun newsy things in the running world, because indoor track season is upon us and in full swing, and so there's a lot to yap about. But we just got back from Grand Valley State University late last night.
So a long weekend.
It's been a long weekend, so the energy, we need to bring the energy, but it's a struggle buster. Sitting down to do this was not.
We left on Thursday at noon, and we didn't get there until like 7 o'clock. Did 3 mile shakeout for both of us. Well, you did too. And then we basically got food and went to bed like right after that.
Yeah, and then next day we raced the 5K, and then...
Which was also another late night.
Yeah, because then we went to bed stupid late again. We didn't get dinner till like 9 o'clock after that, and then we woke up the next day. I felt like booty cheeks the next day, and then...
we all felt pretty bad. It's... what do you expect? And
then we had the mile leg of the DMR.
Yeah, we had the 1600 leg of the DMR for each of us, which I feel like went well.
Yeah.
It went as good as it could have after 5K. But yeah, let's just dive into a recap if you wanna start off.
I'd love to yap about your race because it was very exciting, very fun to watch. You raced a little bit before me. I was warming up inside, so got to see a lot of what you were up to in the race. So first mile, pretty spicy. Took it out in 4:31. It was really fun to watch because you got out, like at the very start of the race, you were around like 10th place, and then a few laps in, it was funny. I was warming up and you guys passed, and I was like, oh, he's in third. And you told me that basically you moved to the outside and some guy shoved you and the momentum kind of pushed you up there.
That's kind of an understatement too. Like, I can't really reiterate this enough. I jumped out to lane 2 and some guy was coming up in lane 2 to pass. It's like I was. And I got thrown. It's as simple as that. It's one of those things that happens in racing. You put your hands out, like you don't want to fall, so you might help a person stay up straight. I remember like 2 years back, I was racing against one of my buddies, John Nice, when he was still running for Otterbein, and I caught him on that track. He full blown like was falling to the ground.
Oh my gosh!
And I caught him like by the back of his jersey.
Well, all I could think of was on Flow Track a few years ago, and they still bring it back every now and then. There was like a video that went viral of like finishing a world championship or something, and basically a guy got hawked down at the end, and the guy who was getting past like kind of like tried to angrily hit or punch the other guy from behind, but it literally like gave him a speed boost across the line. But your race anyway, so that happened. So you moved up, and then it just became the most you race you could run. And you even said that to me after the race before I got on the line. You were like, I ran my race. Like, that's how I need to race and how I do that.
Some people might. We'll dive into the splits, but some people might say, I don't really care, to be honest, but some people might call it dumb.
Well,
I really don't care.
Yeah, because you're very unique in that you function best when people start passing you and you're just trying to hold your ground and hold people off.
Well, I also think it's just
to pass people.
It's just easier mentally as well if, like, I was in the second fastest heat. I knew the pacer was supposed to not do anything out of my wheelhouse, and my PR was 14:34, and we were just shooting for a PR, basically anything under 14:34. But the goal was like low 20s, or just honestly anything in the 20s. And the pacer was supposed to pace for 14:22, 14:20, and he said he'd go into the 69s, and the first lap was 63, and I was like, oh, well, this is interesting. And so in my head, I was like, well, I need to get close to the front, because when you're in the front, there's less traffic, there's less going on.
Especially on an indoor track.
And my theory was, well, if we're pacing and being paced for 14:20, then I can just hold on for this first, like, 3K, and then we'll just see what happens. And if I'm right behind the pacer, I'm right behind the person that's doing the pace that I need anyways.
Anyway, people started to pass you a bit, but I was like not
In
worried.
the fourth,
Like
yeah,
like you still looked good. Like your form was holding together. Your
I had a
fourth
pretty
K,
strong first 3K. My
yeah, you're
fourth
two
K
mile
was kind of wonky, but
9:16 through 2 miles. What was your high school PR?
10:21.
That's actually hilarious. Anyway, your fourth K like was probably like I don't want to say your lowest low of the race because you still look good and
No, I was the lowest
like
low. I was on the struggle bus. I
your
mean,
splits were still like good though. Like you were on pace to run a solid time. Your last K though.
I always get a second wind.
Okay, well with like 2 laps to go, you went from like being like mid pack to where I thought you could win the race because you just started picking it up and like catching people and catching one at a time, and then you like caught that lead pack and you just had this built up like momentum behind you. We talk about that all the time in races. Like once you get that momentum feeling, you're just kind of on a roll. And I'm yelling the thing that you always yell, which is swing, swing, like coming off that last turn. And like you didn't win the heat, but really like your last K was so exciting to watch. So anyway,
it's frustrating sometimes too because it's so hard when. Well, for starters, you get a second wind, so you're like, okay, like this is probably it. But then, like, you finish the race, and you like, it's so hard to finish a race and feel like you had absolutely nothing left. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like that's the end goal. That's what you want. But you don't want to feel like you had nothing left in a bad way. Like we talked about after day 2, you're like, you're allowed to run fast and feel good afterwards.
yeah.
Like you don't always have to feel like a garbage can afterwards.
Right. Like your stomach doesn't, you don't always have to be like throwing up. Like your stomach doesn't have to be in a tizzy. Like
Yeah.
your head doesn't have to hurt. Like all that jazz. Like you're allowed to like feel good in your body and not be tight. Like it just, a lot of times I think it means that your body's ready to handle that if you can finish the race and not be super tight somewhere or have to like stretch out before you cool down. But 14:27, how are we feeling with that?
Happy but not content. I mean, I'm excited because, as you continue to point out, every time I race, multiple races this year, I have not left a race. I guess this is actually
You PR'd
true.
every race.
Yeah, I haven't left a race without a PR this year.
Except, well,
it's actually
the very first meet we went to, we did as a workout, and your 3K wasn't a PR.
I mean,
But
I still got a PR that day in the mile.
Yeah, which you did that after you ran the mile in the DMR like
Right.
10 minutes later.
So I mean, it's still pretty cool. But yeah, I'm blessed that I got the opportunity to run a PR because for a little bit there, with how December went, tying my PR again, and like, was kind of just like not sure how that would go. Like I just was like, can I go under 14:34? Because I'm like, I feel like sometimes you have to settle in to the fitness that you're in and then like rework on it. And sometimes you have to come back. So I feel like sometimes you hit a wall and you can't get past that wall until you take time off and recover and then start with the new training, start with the new fitness, start with the new, what do they call it, that you test every time when you come back? Something threshold.
Lactate threshold?
No,
What?
functioning. It's like
Functional threshold power? What?
no, it's the test that you hate to take. FTT.
Oh, FTP, functional threshold power. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you figure out that you ended the season with 14:34 shape, and it's like, okay, well, that's the new, like that's what your fitness is, and now we're starting a new build that's going to be based upon doing better than that.
100%. No, that's a really good analogy, actually.
So I'm like, okay, so now we're in a place where I'm like, I feel like I can actually go under 14:20 because I'm running races where I'm running that pace. For people who don't know, 4:31 and like 9:16 through 2 miles. Well, for starters, 4:30s is like 14:10 to like 14 flat pace pretty much.
So it's just that last mile.
Well,
Well,
I fell off obviously when I went 9:16, but 9:16 is still really fast. That still was, I'm pretty sure, under, if not right at four. I'm pretty sure that's like right at 14, like 15 pace. So it's like I still was like on pace, and like 2 miles is already, you're like 2/3 the way done with the race. So it's like it's not even like you're only halfway or a third through the race. Like I've already proved that I can hold that pace pretty well and come back strong. That's that fourth K. If I'm just a little stronger than that, I feel like I could have took off 7 more seconds. But I think that's good that I can take that, have a good takeaway from that. But it's really exciting. I don't know what's next in store besides conferences, the big meet that's up next. But excited to see what happens next. But let's go into your race.
it was like a little over 16 minutes of pain, and
It's my turn. I'm
yeah,
telling
go
you,
for
race. Come on,
it.
man. So Faith's goal, and we backed off training just a tad bit, trying to set up a good. Well, not really backed off a whole lot, but tried to set it up for success so that we could try and go under 16 minutes for Faith. Be a really big deal. Honestly, it would have been an 8-second PR. But I feel like that 8 seconds doesn't do the justice of how big of a PR that would be, because I mean it's a barrier,
Yeah.
and that's like a barrier you probably definitely dreamed about doing, but it probably had some points in your life where you thought it probably was never going to happen, and now it's kind of coming
Well,
up again.
and it's funny because I'm not somebody who usually thinks about times, and I almost
Yeah.
after this weekend think I need to just stop thinking about it as a time and a barrier and just get into races
I,
and
I
race.
agree, but the plan for Faith was to get out, and the the funny thing is, Grand Valley had a pacer that was only going to pace for 16:30 pace, which is not what we wanted. So it's kind of funny to have a pacer. Not bashing any programs or anything, but I do think it's just a little silly to have a pacer when the fastest person in the heat's going to run literally, well, that day 16 seconds faster. If not, the plan was to run literally 31 seconds faster than what the pacer was pacing for. But you live and you learn, and things don't always turn out how you envision them to or want them to, and sometimes that's the problem with always having pacers is we're trying to do something that's supposedly already written, but a race is never written, and people don't know how they feel until you're in the race. Like you just don't know. And if you're racing, it's more up to the people in the race on how it plays out. But when you throw pacers in there, I just think sometimes it gets overly complicated, and I think that's why I was excited. Like earlier in the week, Faith was like, "Man, I'm sad that you didn't get in the fast heat," and I was kind of like, "No, no, I'm actually pretty okay." And you were a little frustrated that I was.
I'm just biased because I'm
No,
like, he's amazing.
But like in my head, I'm like, I know like what's gonna set me up for success more, and I was like, me and Tony Goodrich always talk about like, you know, running what we can run and what we know we're capable of in the first half, and then you can roll the second half, and then you can really dig deep. Now we didn't do that, but that's like I said, the pacer and stuff like kind of went out like it was the hot heat that was next. Mm-hmm. Like, but
and we
in
talked
theory,
about that.
It was supposed to pace for a pace that was in my ballpark.
Yeah. But we talked about that on the run today too. Like there's a lot of meets this year in college, especially that we're going to, where they have pacers, but it's never been like a perfect setup. And I think a lot of that too, like watching these races from the outside, is like, we're all in college, a little antsy, and we're experienced, but not experienced to the point of these pros that like know how to use pacers well. And so I think a lot of times the pacer isn't able to get into position as easily as they should, and so then they have to get out faster to get that spot. But anyway, sorry, continue.
No, and you're so right, because there's no reason why we should have dropped a 63 that first opening lap. Like that's all about positioning, but I mean, I guess you could call that's part of the race. But anyways, back to your race. I was a spectator, obviously, and I was on the track watching you the whole time. Ron's made a comment about this. I kind of agree. I think a lot of people did. I thought you were going to be just fine. You came through the first mile in 5:07. You came through 2 miles in, I believe, 10:20. And once again, your PR for 2 mile in high school was
35.
10:35, and it's like, okay, so we're approaching barriers and we're crushing things that we've never crushed before, and you were hitting consistent 57s and 58s the whole time, and I thought it was going well. There was this girl, a Division two girl that had an amazing PR, like what 50-second PR,
Yeah.
kind of insane. But they did come down from Colorado, um, and so they're probably due for a big one at sea level. Um, but I think the biggest frustrations was just you weren't aware that she was on you the way that she was. I knew the whole race, and I did try to tell you, and I know it's hard for people to hear things, but she was very smooth and she was very quiet right behind you, and it was basically faith in this girl the whole race, just literally probably 100 meters ahead of everybody, if not more. Like it was, you guys were ahead by a lot, and it's just kind of funny to me because when 3 laps came, so we're gonna go back to this. So through 2 miles, you're on pace. 5:05 mile pace is 15:35 pace. You came through the mile in 5:07. The perfect split would have been 10:14 after that, but you ran 10:20. So that was probably what, a 5:13 mile
Yeah.
after that. So so you ran as well as you could with what you were given, and the whole plan and the strategy was you getting out hot and doing it on by yourself. And so for what the task was and what the environment given, I mean, obviously I rated an A race, but I mean the result was not what we wanted.
Right. Followed the plan, but it wasn't.
Right.
We didn't execute it fully to the end, I guess.
And thinking about this, it's like me at nationals. Like the plan was not to go out hot,
Mhm.
and it bit us in the ass. Like you can't, like there's nothing, and like we didn't race.
Yeah.
And like the difference a little bit is like that's how you race sometimes, like majority of the time, is getting out hot and like holding. And but that's like how we switched it up for me, that's how I was racing a lot that year, and we didn't want to do that at nationals. So like with 3 laps to go, she takes the lead and you had nothing left, and you said that, and like I could physically see that too, and we could just see that you were tired. And I mean, going into that race, like obviously it kind of makes no sense. Like in your head, probably you're like, wow, we like backed off of this race for one. Why am I tired? And why did that feel so hard? I feel like I'm fitter than I've ever been before. And like I know that exact feeling. Like back in 2022 when I was having the most successful season of my life, yes, like I was kind of banged up a little bit, but like the speed should have been there. And so it's like I just feel like there was a lot of other things affecting, and like, you know, we already talked about it. You made a bullet point list of what you're going to do differently from now on. And
well, I think that's funny that you bring that up, because like we always talk how like you're really good on the fly, like speaking, whereas I'm like I show up to this podcast and I got a bullet point list. I'm like, here's what we got to cover. And you had mentioned like once when I had like written a bunch of stuff out, you were like, if you're going to do that, like if you got a bunch of thoughts in your head, just put it out there where you can see it. And I was like, oh. And so after the race, like we were kind of talking and I was rambling, and like I didn't want to like just feel like I was talking in circles about like my frustration. So I was like, I just need to sit down and like write it out and put together like the simplest bullet point reasons of like why I'm frustrated with this result. And
well, I also think the funniest part for me was she finishes the race. I wasn't over there at the finish line because, for starters, I knew she probably wouldn't.
You got over there finish. Fast though.
No, I was walking there at a medium pace, and I the whole time you were making eye contact with me the whole way as I was walking from midfield to the start line and finish line, and with every step, I think eye contact, my smile just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because I just knew like the amount of pissed off energy that was about to come my way, and I was just ready to listen and see what she'd have to say after that, because I think post race thoughts are the most like pure and like emotion like driven thoughts that have ever existed in the world.
100%.
Like it's kind of funny,
and like we always talk, like fatigue magnifies emotion, so just
100%
give yourself the day, feel it. And then I was like, I just need to write out like the 4 or 5 reasons as simply as possible why I'm frustrated, and then like moving forward, like obviously some people can go overboard and be like, oh, I want to change this and that and be like great and be on top of my game. But I feel like for the most part, I'm like on top of my shit, like when it comes to training. And so I just like looked at a few things and was like, after the weekend as a whole, like wrote down like, like I need to do better about sleep. Like I'm working a like relatively early shift on campus right now that like means I'm getting up stupid early to train, and you're somebody who gets up early, so like you get
Well, like,
it.
and you're providing a service for the college. Like, you help tutor people and like help them with their papers and stuff, and it's like it's great. But quite honestly, like, not a lot of people are coming in for help on the papers at 8 a.m.
Yeah,
and you only work 8 to 9, and it's just like an odd time where it's like that's a huge like
when
minutes
you're on
and
the
seconds,
bike for like
minutes and seconds and hours, like
Yeah.
that, like they
being on
add
the
up
bike
for
at like
you.
5:45 in the morning then to get it all done
When you're
before,
training
like,
3 different sports each
Yeah.
day, yeah, it adds up. Any
So-
amount of time you can get back, you
Yeah.
want to get back.
stuff like that. And then just after the race, and I saw this last time we raced the 5K in the evening too, like just really big headache, like some stomach issues. So it's like got to figure out how to get on top of that before we do the nerdy double at nationals and get some electrolytes in the system, take care of the bod. So just some reflections, but overall good takeaways, I think. So
Well, and then we had some. I mean, it was Valentine's Day, so didn't really do much for that, but we were saving that for this week
This
because
Wednesday.
it was fun to. It was fun, honestly. I felt like the trip itself was like a Valentine's Day
yeah.
getaway gift of racing because that's what we love to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we got 2 days of it. So the next day,
Our two loves, the track and each other. Oh my gosh, I
Please
hate
cut
myself
that
for
out.
saying
Please cut that out.
that.
But
It's staying in.
oh my gosh,
I'm being so lazy editing this episode.
all right. Anyways, so the big meet actually does 2 separate meets, but it's like one meet. It's kind of interesting. But the first day is like all the elite heats and stuff like that, and the second day is like majority. It's just a different. It's just a different meet basically. There's I think more field events. Like
It's not a quote unquote invite meet.
correct, yeah. So like a lot of people were race to DMR, and that was something that we really wanted to do because for starters, we felt like we had a really good women's team that could set a high bar and or crush the record that they set last year. And then we finally felt like we had a men's team that could go under the record and post a good time for conference. And we also know that like most likely like we're not sure if like I'll be able to run on it at conference, so we wanted to take a shot with our best team that we had available at the time.
Send it.
Yeah. So going into like Faith's race, why don't you talk about how you felt like doubling back?
Oh yeah, I woke up the next day and
Oh yeah.
It's snowing outside, so we're channeling that vibe. Woke up the next day. We had barely gotten any sleep, it felt like, because we didn't get dinner until like 9 o'clock, which I think is something that we should also try and be better about at nationals when we do this. But had really horrible headache upon waking up. Stomach felt terrible. Didn't poop all morning. It was great. It's not what you want going to the race. But I woke up early because I had a bike ride to get in too. So I was trying to knock that out and still meet up with the team for breakfast and coffee and stuff. Chugged a Gatorade. I think that helped get some electrolytes in the system. Just like tried to relax and just felt not great going into the race. But at the end of the day, I was like, worst comes to worst, if we have a terrible bowel incident, the bathroom's right there by the finish line.
You had a plan.
And honestly, it brought me so much comfort having this plan. I felt really horrible until I was like,
Gabe Moore.
Gabe Moore. I
The
told
goat.
him, yeah, he was watching. I was like, if you see me
Our
running to that
Archangel.
bathroom, Archangel Gabriel, lead us, Gabe.
He ran a huge PR
He
this
did.
week.
Shout
Yeah.
out to him real
He ran
quick.
15:05, and the kid only ran under 18 minutes twice in high school.
Yeah, and just did 20-second PR.
And his PR in the 2 mile was like, I'm pretty sure like 10:48 or 38. I think it was 38. 10:38.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. Anyway, I told Gabe, I was like, look, my stomach hurts. If something goes sideways after the race, I'm going to run right into that bathroom. If you see that, I just need you to tell somebody to bring me my bag. I always pack spare shorts and stuff. And I was like, if that happens, like I'll figure it out there in the bathroom. I wasn't sure if there were showers in there or not, but you
The
mentioned
men's
John
one
Nice.
does.
You mentioned John Nice, and I was like, worst case
We have
scenario,
connections.
worst comes to worst, and there's no showers in there, then we go to John Nice's apartment. Hopefully he would let me use his shower. Hopefully he listens to this and knows that we're banking on that next time we go to Grand Valley, if we go back ever. But yeah, once I kind of laid out that plan, I was like, worst case scenario, we got it figured out. It's going to be okay. And got the baton, had some bodies to catch. And once I started catching people, just like wasn't really thinking about the pain and was just kind of moving up. But
the really
whole
cool
women's
thing,
team ran awesome though.
Yeah.
Like Haley Cook led off on the 1200. And she's
which I thought was really interesting.
You were shocked by that.
I was really shocked because I was like, whoa. Well, for
Part of me wants
starters,
to take credit for that idea, low key, because I floated it by Ron a few weeks ago and was like, I think Haley would be a really good 1200 leg because she goes 6-mile jogs on the weekends,
right.
Even though she's a sprinter, she's just a dog.
She's got a big engine with a massive tank. That's how I look at it.
But yeah, she ran her first 1200.
She got a lot of gas in that motor.
She ran her first 1200 though, split like 3:57, 58.
She always looks so effortless when she goes up in distance. It always cracks me up because I'm like, and so like it brings me peace when I ask her too. Like your guys' relay was like 7 seconds off of a team that we wanted to kind of catch or maybe be really close to, and we were the closest we've ever been in a long time. And it's funny because she split at 3:57, and I looked at her last night, and I was like, "Do you think you could cut 7 seconds off of that?" And she's like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, you looked like you could probably run faster than that." She's like, "Yeah, I totally could." Well, right, like you're so unsure. Well, it's like Ethan Davidovich from John Carroll, like last year when I ran it for my first time ever. He's like, man, you got to race it like an 800. And so like I went out in 2:06, and I just like held on and like came on strong with that second wind. Yeah, and it's like you kind of have to run it like that.
That's our big thing.
Race everything like a 400.
Everything is really just the 400. You race the 800 like a 400. You race the 1K like it's an 800, so it's basically a 400. You race the mile like it's the 1K, but you're racing that like it's just run the 400 and you're good.
Basically.
Anyway, our 400 leg, she cooked also. She's a transfer, and we're very happy to have her. Chloe Lovett. Then we also had Hayden Steady, who also did cross country on the 800. Then
she's got this elongated stride that's just kind of wild.
Yeah. But anyway,
that's why like you could put her on any leg. She's just gonna
once you channel that,
she's gonna catch bodies.
I think she'd be really good at the 800 though, if that was like her focus.
No, I agree. I mean, you're a faster 400 just makes your 800 better. So I think with the more speed that she's doing right now, she's always had a natural endurance. So I think she'll flourish. I think that positioning of that relay is really coming into its strongest form.
I think we're second in the conference right now.
Yeah, you're totally second in the conference, and
it's not by
you're
a lot.
Sixth in the nation is what I thought.
Yeah.
Last time I checked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was also after like yesterday. So
there were a lot of I don't know if BU or any of those meets had DMRs, but your men's team ran really well too.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with it.
It's the fastest in school history, but
it's the fastest time ever ran. Yeah, you're 100% right, but it is not the record.
300-meter track, so
yeah. It was a little salty subject or topic after I finished because I was just under the impression that the week going into it that if we ran like the time's a time, and if we ran faster, and we were gonna take it. So when I was coming up into the last lap to go, I was coming through and it was like 9:30. And the record's 10:23, and I was like, oh, I literally just need a 50-second, like to like tie it or like get close to tying it. Like I could kind of die here even if needed. And so, but we went 10:20. I had a strong last lap. We had some really good takeaways from that though. Like Keegan, our 800 leg, and Tate, our 1200 leg. Tate had a rough day the previous day in the 3K. So he was battling back from that, being able to find the confidence, and I was able to talk with him.
Split down the 12.
He did. He ran it was a 310 high, and I say that because like you could argue that it was like a 311 low. Really good split. I'm pretty sure that's pretty doggone close to like what I split last year. Mm-hmm. So like that's good. And I knew we'd get that out of him because he was our 800 leg last year. So it's like I knew the speed was there. I knew he could do it. and he starts the race with everybody, so he had people in an environment to chase. So that was good. And then we handed it off to Deontay, Slim for short. He's like the man of the sprint squad right now. He's just Mr. Do It All right now, and he's a really cool guy. I got to get to know him a little bit better over this weekend, which was actually really fun. And I really love those guys on that relay. We're all pretty much like it's dudes are dudes, man, and we just get close like for no reason. Like dudes. You just need one thing in common, and you guys are practically brothers. And so he split a 50, and that was good. Like we needed that, and handed off to Keegan, and Keegan ran a good leg. He claims he went too flat. I also heard he went 158, 159, but still, like, you know, I don't think that's his best race.
He has a lot of potential too.
I don't think that's his best race, but he also was like, he had like, did he have bronchitis? I think he
was really sick earlier in the week. He missed a day or two.
He was really sick and like didn't run the first 2 days of the week, and then like was running inside like every day this week.
Yeah, to get out of the cold.
Basically took the day off. Like he ran like a mile and a half with me and Simon. But other than that, he basically took the day off the day before the race anyways. Like, I don't know if you knew that, but he was really trying to rest up, but he seemed confident about it, and so I was confident in him. He's my man.
He's honestly really fun to watch because he just loves to compete and
he's a gamer.
People.
He's a gamer.
My gosh.
That's what I love about our relay. Everybody on our relay is a gamer.
And he's just I don't want to say he's mean, but you can tell just watching him run that he wants to beat you so badly.
Oh, well, it's like
running workouts with him in cross. I would get so frustrated because he never let you like try and pass. Like you would have to run him until he was too tired to run anymore to get around him.
But like Eric, that's exactly how Eric was. He reminds me, his mentality is a lot like Eric.
You try and get around, he's gonna throw an elbow at you
he's a little mean. He's like, we're not friends on the track at all. Mm-hmm. Maybe not even a little bit after we're off the track, but like we can make up later. But like I love it. I love like all the guys on the relay were like,
you gotta be a little bit of a prima donna to run fast.
Especially in those middle distance races.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be. Talk about that all the time, like sprinters and middle distance. Like you gotta have that edge to you.
But anyway, then you split a 4:18, which was yet again another PR.
Yep, because even if you convert it to a full mile, that still converts to 4:20. And my PR is 4:21. Yes. Yeah, 4:21 is my PR. And so you convert that to, if you convert it up, it's a 4:20 mile. So pretty happy with that as well. Like, and I split it even. I went 209, 209. Once again, that like third 400 was probably like, I'm not gonna lie, I got handed the baton and I felt like I was running for my life out there. Mechanically, I felt really good. Like my turnover felt fine, but I was like,
more speed than
I felt like I had no juice at all. And like, obviously that's, like, what do you expect after you race a lifetime best in the 5K the night before? Like, we're running less than 24 hours after. Like, we're probably running like 18 hours after. Not a lot of recovery time in between then, and lack of sleep.
Well, I think that even split, because mine was pretty even too. I think I was 225, 227.
Came back strong in the last lap, caught some people.
Yeah. But I think that just goes to show that, like, for us even splitting that more, so it shows how we train. It's very strength based.
Oh yeah,
like
100%.
Which I think in a race like that, where like you're trying to catch people unless you're already in front, it's vital.
Well, and it goes back to like what we talked about. Like I feel like personally, I have a better shot at running something fast or crazy if I negative split, because I just like my body gets comfortable and then it's able to feel it out and can really just go at the end, rather than getting uncomfortable going lactic too soon and then your body like has no confidence. But enough yapping on that.
Oh yeah, we got some fun gear updates, because while we were at the meet, we had a little bit of a spike debacle.
Spike-gate.
Didn't that Spike-gate? Spike-gate.
Not Spike-gate.
Spike scare. There's basically
not bunch even of that. It was more so like, but yeah,
super shoes more so. But there's a lot of regulations now on, like, from World Athletics basically, about the shoes that you can wear on the track. So like
versus roads,
like you can no longer wear like your Alpha Flies or Vaporflies when you're racing the 10K or the 5K on the track. And it's funny because then we're looking at all these trainers like you can't race in a Bondi or
Can't
like
race
a
in the
Nimbus.
Pegasus Plus.
Yeah, like on the track. On the roads, obviously this is
It's like
different.
these are
And I think,
trainers.
yeah, I think they're going to change some of those guidelines on the roads too shortly, but on the track, like not being able to wear that,
Our
especially when
coaches
you're,
have a theory that they're just like, this is getting too out of hand. We just need to crack down really, really hard
yeah.
for like a couple months and then like see where it goes after that.
So
My biggest worry is like for doubling
5K,
purposes
10K,
in
yeah.
championship seasons, like for 5K, 10K, like the last thing you want to do is wear spikes for the 10K and then also wear spikes for the 5K. Obviously, you're going to wear spikes for the 5K no matter what, but you don't really want to race a 10K in shoes that are going to just bang up your feet and your
Right.
calves.
Especially,
The
I
super
think,
shoes save your
and we
calves.
talk about conference or like races towards the end of the season where you're doing that like to get points, but not necessarily like target some stupid fast time in championship racing. It just helps keep your legs fresh, helps you stay healthy. So anyway, we were looking at a bunch of sheets and seeing the new spike regulations. Like you can't have any stack heights higher than 25 millimeter in the spike, and I don't think you can have more than in the spike. I don't think they want more than a 4 millimeter drop. But shoes on the roads, it can't be more than 8 now.
Which is very confusing to me because I'm still really confused on why it's all getting banned because the regulations that are online still say like you can't have a higher stack height than 40 millimeters, but none of these shoes are above 40 millimeters.
So on the roads, okay, I might be understanding this differently than you. So on the track, you can't use the Vaporfly because the track regulations is 25 millimeters, whether it's a spike or a shoe. So that's why you couldn't wear like a Bondi or like even like a Brooks Ghost, I guess, on the track
Hold up.
technically.
You're telling me right now that for a track, you can't have anything stacked higher than 25 millimeters?
I believe so, unless they're just saying spikes. If they're
I
just saying
thought that was
spikes
just the
can't be more than
spike.
25.
I swear
Yeah.
that's just the. We need somebody to reach out
It's
who
yeah.
actually has more information about this because, from my understanding, it was this. The spikes was you can't have more than 25, and you can't have more than 40 for
a shoe.
a non spiked shoe.
Correct. See, that in my head makes sense, but also I'm like, the only reason that it would make sense for them to say like, oh, we're not going to let you wear.
Correct. What you're saying makes sense. Yes.
Would be if it's
that
above
rule,
the 25 millimeter.
which then I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. But then I'm like, how in the world are they going to make new super shoes that are going to save people with like? I mean, you can be like the Streak Fly or something.
Yeah.
But how are you going to carbon plate a shoe that doesn't have a lot of
stack height?
Right. It's not going to do a lot of benefit for you. You might as well just wear spikes.
Like, yeah, part of me is like happy about it because for a long time in the sport, I was a purist and I was like, I hate the idea of super shoes. I never.
You're wearing a
plated
shoe,
and
you're not a purist.
Well, now I wear them because in high school I was running these $20 spikes and doing all right, and then I got beat by somebody in Vaporflies, and I was like, wait a second, and so then I bought a pair of Saucony Endorphins, which are now banned by those rules on the track. Yeah, it's like all the play. Like it's basically their equivalent of the Alpha Fly, and it was a plated shoe, and I wore it in like a 2 mile or something in high school because people were wearing like their next percents and stuff then. And now I use Saucony spikes. Like they are on the list of like approved spikes and stuff on the track. But I remember buying those shoes and thinking like this is like a pogo stick the first time I put them on.
So basically, you're saying like your times in high school are technically they don't count.
No, I only used the shoes once. Actually, no, I used them twice.
So those races it doesn't count for technically.
Yeah, you cannot. I actually did not wear my PR in them, so
that's good. I was going to say some weird story and be like, man, I'm glad I wasn't a shoe freak then because I was wearing the most just like basic shit. Like I had no clue.
I ran my mile and my 2 mile PR in $20 spikes.
And I had my first plated pair of spikes until my first indoor season, my freshman year of college.
Dang. Well, that's like Gabe Moore too. Just got his.
Hold up, no, not even then. My sophomore year, indoor track.
What spikes did you have before that?
I had the Nike Streak Fly. It was the Nike Streak LT.
I had the Saucony Valiant MD. I had a mid D spike.
It was basically literally just their Streak Fly with spikes on it.
Nice.
But like obviously it was a smaller stack height.
Like a splat, a spike flat.
It really was.
Which was a shoe for a while that they kind of made as a prototype, which I don't know how is different, but
No, I know exactly the one you're talking about because this kid, this is another story for another time. So let's get into another segment.
Some fun news.
Yeah, you want to take the first half of this?
Sure. So it's been a big weekend for track and field, as we were talking about. Enough yaps about us. We want to talk about the Millrose Games, the Wanamaker Mile. Lots of history behind this race. Anyway, really fast women's and men's mile fields racing in Boston. And women's race, first place, Georgia Bell, 4:23.35. Second place, the American, Heather McLean. She's an Olympian, 4:23.41. Third place, another American. We got Nikki Hiltz, 4:23.50. This field is stacked. I've watched this race pretty much every year since middle school go down, and it just keeps getting faster. I remember thinking I was the stuff when I broke 5 minutes in the mile. And like you would watch women in college run like 4:40 and they were like winning like
titles and
like conference titles. Like in the SEC, if you're running under 4:40, you were like the shiz. And now you're watching this. Last place in this field was 4:30.64. And even watching these NCAA girls race now, there's just a new NCAA record set of, I think it was 4:23 high.
It was.
It might have been in this race, honestly, because they were all super close together. It was an Oregon girl, I believe. But just, it's crazy to think that now to make the D1 NCAA meet, you'll probably have to run under 4:30, which is just insane to me. Like, gosh, I loved racing the mile in that DMR and I want to race it more, but I'm like, maybe I'm just like gaslighting myself into thinking I'm a miler after that.
Like, you always think you're a miler, but it's okay. Prefontaine thought he was a miler.
The mile's just so fun. It's so fun. Anyway.
Then the men's race, like, I was insane.
I mean, you had
yard go 3:46.63, new world record.
For the
time. Then Hobbs Kessler, another American, comes in second with 4:36 as well, but high
3:46.
3:46. It's still kind of crazy to kind of say those times in my head. You know what I mean? Like 3:46.90 for a mile. Like that's literally that's just insane to me. And then Cam Myers was third with 3:47.48. And it's just one thing I really like, and we'll get into like the other races and at this meet at BU. Like it's just kind of crazy to me, like how much better American distance running has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
More so like middle distance.
Well, Yard
like very
Hobbs,
deep. Like Hobbs Kessler, like
he's young too.
But you know he's developed. He's very veteran-esque. He came out of high school, went straight to the pros, and he in a lot of videos he's talking about he wants to be he can compete with Yard and he can compete with Hawker. And I honestly like that kind of speaks to me. I'm pretty sure we're the same age actually. I think.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure he was in the Olympics, like the trials, when I was graduating, which means we were the same age.
Yeah.
So yeah, like he's a stud. I mean, and you can't take it from him. He's like significantly younger than those big headers.
Yeah.
Like he really is though, and he's running like milliseconds, like tenths of seconds behind the world record order. Well, for that week.
Can we talk about Yard and the world record for a second?
You're talking about like Jakob?
Yes.
Yeah, Jakob like 5 days later runs 1 second faster. And
it was very set up time trial-esque, like literally just to beat the world record.
Literally, I mean, obviously, like they have paces at BU, but
this was at Millrose. This was at the Armory.
Oh yeah,
I believe New Balance.
Shoot. Yeah, you're right. But obviously, though, they have pacers there. It's not like the lights going around the track and
right.
Not trying to judge like how people run things, but I'm just not a fan of Jakob right now. Sorry, if you're listening to the podcast and that you hate that I say that, I like my American guys and they're doing it right. I feel like they're racing, they're doing what we like to do, and that's just race, and the time will come. And Jakob's trying to act like nobody's saying Jakob's not one of the greatest to ever do it. He acts like people are counting him out. Like nobody's counting you out, dude.
Yeah.
Like you're Jakob. Like nobody's.
It's interesting watching him in championship races versus time trial races.
Yeah, like that's where you need to figure it out. Like he just needs to figure it out.
So I have a funny story for you that I just heard today while I was on the bike, and I was going to save it for this because I think it's hilarious and I thought you would appreciate it. So I was on the bike today, 3 hours. It was great. Watched you and Eric Reynolds play Fortnite for a while, and then I put on some podcasts. And I was listening to the Coffee Club podcast, which is the on guys like Ollie Hoare and
Morgan
Yard.
McDonald.
Yeah, Yard is included in their training group, not always on their podcast. But they were talking. They said it was so funny because Yard, I guess, had like met and like talked like personally like with Jakob like probably like a year or two ago or something, like somewhere in Europe, and followed him on Instagram. Didn't get the follow back. It was not until Yard ran the world record and all of a sudden he got a notification that Jakob started following him on Instagram. Are
you serious? No,
I think it's
that
hilarious.
Is the most. That is so petty.
Literally,
not only is that petty,
record to get the follow.
That's crazy. Not only is that petty, but then how Jakob showboated about it was even pettier. Like,
because then he mentioned him in the Instagram
he
post.
He says,
which I think is also
sorry.
hilarious.
At Yard Nagoose, and it's like, whoa, that's so disrespectful for no reason. And it's like, come on, buddy, come over to the States, or why don't you invite Yard over for a race over there?
It's literally
why don't you race him
on Instagram so he could do that?
100%. Like, dude, if you're gonna talk smack, like, why don't you race the guy again? Because he beat you in the Olympics. I'm just gonna say it. It's what happened.
Valid.
He didn't even medal. I'm just saying, like that's the purest of racing is. Like, you want to talk about like going like all out, like you're aggressively racing somebody like a gladiator. Like, that's when all that matters when you get to the Olympics is getting medals, the places. That is all that matters.
That's why we don't focus much on time when we race.
But I'm just saying, like, that's exactly like same when you get to the national championships in D3. You just hardest part's making the meet. Nobody's 100%. Saying that there's going to be a new national record set.
Yeah.
But
anyway, moving on.
That's 3K. Just my beef that I had from that.
Men's and women's 3Ks these past few weeks were insane. Also, Coach Diljit Taylor, coached at BYU. Now she's coaching a handful of pros. Whitney Morgan, former BYU athlete, now running for Adidas, ran 8:28 for the 3K this past weekend.
So glad I PR'd.
Oh my gosh.
For the folks out there, my PR in the 3K is 8:27. It was 29, but then I PR'd by 2 seconds.
Courtney Wayment, Courtney Wayment is sponsored by On, but still coached by Diljit, ran 8:56.57 in this same race. So anyway, this kind of brings up an interesting point. That's something else I wanted to talk about. So Nike previously had Oregon Project, which obviously went kaput. That was like my junior year of high school because that rocked my world. They had Bowerman for a really long time. And then they had the Union Athletics Club, which kind of replaced Oregon Project, which now we talked about this like 2 episodes ago. Oh my gosh, I'm going to use that. How they basically made Union Athletics Club like athletes from all over, all different brands. It's no longer just Nike. Like, it's just a collective of athletes. So now Nike, they gave Bowerman Track Club the axe. So Bowerman Track Club is no more. And now it's Nike Swoosh Track Club. But it's like 3 different training groups. So like Mike Smith at NAU is now a Nike coach coaching a Nike group. Diljit Taylor, who we just talked about, is now a Nike coach coaching a Nike group in BYU, like in Utah. And now Jerry Schumacher, who's also the coach at Oregon, is coaching a group there. And he was formerly just the Bowerman group. But anyway, I'm kind of confused by it because Diljit is also clearly coaching these girls who are sponsored by On and Adidas. So, like, how many of her athletes are sponsored by Nike? Who is she coaching? Clearly she's doing something right, though, because these girls are running wicked fast. And if they want to stay coached by her after college, I think that speaks volumes to her coaching. But I want to know how it affects the Nike Swoosh Track Club. And there's also Ella Donahue, a Nike runner. She used to be Union Athletics Club, who now I'm guessing she's Swoosh Track Club, but she was 8th place in that 3K as well. So anyway, really interested in that. On had some women run really well. Jose Andrews took 2nd place at 8:29. Olivia Markovic, who ran at Notre Dame, recent grad, 8:37. And then, okay, obviously we need to talk about this men's race because
insane. We watched it before our tempo. Grant Fisher versus Cole Hawker went at it. I mean, there was a lot of other guys in that field. One of the cool things was there was 2 Aussies in it. I think it was Kai Robinson and who's the other Australian? Was it?
I think so. Yeah.
Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Ollie Hoare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's literally said multiple times in their podcast. I'm a fan of
Yeah.
He's like, it's whore. Just say it.
Hoare. Hoare. I'm just gonna say it. Ollie Hoare. Anyways, so other than that, it was a bunch of Americans. Like I said, this is the thing that I'm saying. This is really interesting to me, and I think it's really cool as like a 22-year-old American who's grown up, and like the only guys I really looked up to is like Galen Rupp. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Steve Prefontaine. Like you're talking like before my time stuff. Obviously, Galen Rupp's not really before my time, but I mean just like different time periods. I mean Galen's kind of a little bit before. He's kind of in the Ryan Hall era. You know what I mean? Like we had a very select few people, and there's big gaps in between these things. And now we talk about like our Quakers even like how this is the era of the fastest Quakers in Wilmington College history.
Yes.
Like we just like there's different people who are stepping up and being the guys. Like it was Simon, now it's me. Like it's gonna be Gabe and Tate. Like we have these steps. Like it wasn't just one person like how it always was in Ron's stories back in the day, like, Austin Styles or Alec Irwin or Pat Carroll. Like those are different. Pat Carroll and Alec Irwin were the only two that overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And they overlap just a little bit. But it's like, me and Simon train all the way. So I think this is really cool that, we get a matchup that is American versus American. And it's like these guys are the top guys in like respective events. It's funny because like Cole Hawker's coming up the 3K, Grant's coming down the 3K. And like this is like the most even probably distance for both of them.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. Yeah.
And like a lot of people are like, Grant Fisher takes their goal was to get the American record, which I believe was 7:28.
I'm not sure on that.
I'm pretty sure it was like 7:28, and so that was their goal, and they were paced for 7:28. And a lot of people are like, yeah, like that would be great. Like maybe they'll be able to do it. Well, let me tell you, the last 5 laps, Cole Hawker makes a move and he starts going, and Grant Fisher's right on to the right shoulder of Hawker. And they're just hammering. And the last 2 laps come around, and Grant tries to make a move. He gets to the back, and he comes back on the side again with 200 meters to go, and he takes the lead with 150 to go. And Grant he's so efficient.
He runs so smooth.
I'm such a fanboy of Grant Fisher. I love Cole Hawker, though. Like, I love Cole Hawker as well. But they ran like within tenths of seconds of each other as well.
Yeah.
And they didn't just break the American record. Yeah, right. Like, they didn't just break the American record. They smashed it. They ran like, what was it? Like 5 seconds faster, which is like huge in a 3K, especially when you're down to 7:23. And that's a new world record.
Yeah.
And then Grant comes out later this past week and it's like, hey, for the BU Valentine meet, like I want the 3K to be paced for
5K.
Or the 5K. He's like, I want the 5K to be paced for 12:42. When the record's 12:50, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah.
Pretty sure this is not American record. This is the world record. And to fast forward a little bit, I don't think we were going to talk about it a whole lot until like we realized when we were going to be recording this episode. But we found out after racing our race, because it happened while we ran our we ran our races. And
wow, it was really with we ran our PRs. You ran your PR. We ran a hard effort that we're proud of.
Hard of in the 5K.
You guys are hurt at the same time as Grant Fisher. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, it was cool. It was so cool.
And it was Valentine's Day.
I finished, and then I found out he went 12:44. That's
insane.
That's 4:03 to 4:05 per mile for 3.1 miles. That is insane.
And that's the same when you hear those splits that they're running on the 3K, running 29s. That's sub 4 pace when you realize that. Like, for almost 2 miles. Like, anyway. Yeah. Anyway, what a time to be involved in American distance running.
When you think about it, it makes sense, though, in the 3K, because now the common thing, it's such a common thing to go under 4 minutes now.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a common thing.
Like women going under 4:30 in the mile now.
Like the new collegiate record's 3:48. So it's like, yeah, of course Grant Fisher can just run 3:55 through the first mile of his 3K. Yeah, like it's like what?
Yeah.
Remember, it comes back to everything's just a 400, so that's just a mile. It's
Full
just
circle.
a mile.
Oh my gosh! On that note,
I think that's pretty much it and all that we had this week.
do you have any Strava shout-outs for the week?
I totally had one, and then I kind of forgot a little bit. Why don't you say your Strava shout-out?
Okay, so mine actually not on Strava. Ines Macadam of Tiffin, actually so nice. I talked to her a little bit actually when I was in the transfer portal at one point, talking to some of the Tiffin girls. But she's super nice, great representative of the sport, and she was at the meet. She did the 800, but we just talked a little bit like before I ran the 5K, and she was also at the Tiffin meet, obviously, that we did. She was pacing the mile, but just super sweet, super nice, really great ambassador of the sport, and I think it's rare in the sport that you see women at a high level that are actually super friendly and welcoming to each other and that really want to train together. And
she's very
friendly. Yeah, she came over, gave me a hug. I was like, yes.
That was really funny.
Yeah, we talked for a while just about running and life and plans for after college. And yeah, so just wishing her all the best this season. And she's not on Strava, but give her an IG follow.
I have my Strava shout out.
Yes.
Mr. T himself, Tate Yoder.
Oh.
He's obviously, me and him talk about how, every season's different and every phase of life is different, and goals change and goals develop and goals reshape. And he's been having a rough time these past couple of weeks, battling with sickness and other things. And he came up to me after he ran a phenomenal first leg of our DMR. And he was like, thank you for believing in me. And, it really just shows you the power of believing and having confidence in others. Even when, he didn't have the performance he wanted or that we thought he could do the day before, it's hard to come back after that. I mean, yeah, sure, you can be like, oh, it's revenge time. And you kind of had that motivation in your mile leg, so it's understandable.
Yeah, you yelled that at me, and I was like,
yeah, of course. You gotta capitalize on things that happen to you, but his was a different kind of upsetness. It was kind of like an unsureness of if he was still that guy. And so then it was good that he had the backing of a whole relay on him. We're like, dude, we actually depend. You're gonna set the tone for this whole thing, and he did. Yeah. And we wouldn't have had the fastest time ever ran, for Wilmington College if that didn't happen. So big props to him, really proud of him, and hoping for him to have a better latter half of the season and a great start to the outdoor season. So Tate Yoder, everybody. Tate Yoder, follow him on Instagram and follow him on Strava.
Yeah, we'll tag him in the episode. We also just want to point out our Strava Club again. The link is in our bio. Go join our Strava Club. It's a good time. We update you when we post episodes and
you can stalk my training and see what I run when I run it. Yeah. Maybe also, see my lifts at 2 a.m. You never know.
What kind of strength training? What kind of strength training are you doing at 2 a.m.?
Push-ups. Lots of push-ups. Sit-ups. Pull-ups. You name it.
In bed. Also join the Heartbreak Running Club. Heartbreak Running, NIL, Chica this semester. We've got a run club now on there. Join that. Lots of fun things happening. We're all about running community, so give that a join.
Or don't join it. We're not at all sponsored by them in this podcast, so this is not a sponsored comment. It's a cool club.
But to shout ourselves out more, please follow the pod, share the pod. For me, for my capstone, I've been doing a bunch of pod research, and most people find their favorite podcast when it's recommended to them by a friend. So go share this with a friend if you like it.
Also, if you're listening from Grand Valley, if we have any new listeners from Michigan, probably the Allendale area, we're happy that you saw a QR code that we left up in the Kelly Center. So if you're listening and you find that, please make copies of it for us and put it all around your campus. We want to get out there, and maybe we'll even shout you out.
100%. Yeah. Comment. Yeah. On our podcast, on the Instagram.
We love feedback. Let us know
if you have anything.
If you have people you want us to interview, honestly, And if you
I'm
made
calling you
this,
an interview next.
if you made it this far into the video, I really recommend, if you have suggestions of people's stories that you want to get out there. The purpose of this podcast is for obviously us to yap about things we want to yap about.
Right.
But we
so
have a segment for interviews.
Yeah.
And one of the big things is we wanted to get our story out. We've kind of already got it out a little bit.
We share like our kind of continuous story with these like episodes, and then we obviously want to get other stories out there with episodes between. So
everybody's story is worth sharing, and not a lot of people get the opportunity to share it. So if there's cool stories out there that we deserve, like it deserves to be out there. So please, like, DM us, email us, or if you somehow have our phone numbers, text us.
Yeah.
But other than that, that is all she wrote.
Any closing statements? Oh, I have one.
All right.
We said this a lot at the meet when we were doing our 4-mile cool down before we got in the car. And I'm going to leave it here as kind of a hot take. Your best is the most you can ask for, so you can be proud of the effort.
But sometimes your best just isn't enough.
100%. On that note, mic drop.
We will see you next time.
Catch you in the flip.